welcoming back to the room, that sacred space of joy. Can you feel that? That love, that is the place we like to start from. And wherever you are in the country or around the world, let us know where you're tuning in from. We send our hellos from Columbus, Ohio, where we all are, but let us know where you're watching from. And to all of our friends who are celebrating Pride Month, let's hear it for Pride. Yeah. Happy Pride, everyone. I know there's some of the parades and festivities started in some cities. When is it here in Columbus, the 18th or something, June 18th? If it's not too hot, I'll be out there. I don't know. We'll see. It's generally like blistering hot for Pride. I don't know what that's about. Maybe because, I don't know, for hot people. I don't know what it is. But tuning in and talking about courage, the courage to be who we are. That shows up in different ways for every one of us. Some could say, it's what I noticed early on is it's important to not compare what I need courage to overcome with what someone else might need courage to overcome, right? What my challenges are super important to me, but what someone else's challenges are super important to them. We don't want to compare things like this, but we do want to draw on that same cosmic force of courage. Courage. So let's get some definitions for courage. There are two that I like. One is the courage associated with kind of the mental capacity of it. It's the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. And valor is a courage of bravery, especially in battle. So think about where we have mental battles. Do you have little battles with yourself sometime in your mind? There's laughing. Things you want to do, things you don't want to do. Paramahansa Yogananda, I like it because he will call some things you need willpower, other things you need won't power. I will do this, I won't do that. The yama and yamas, the do's and the don'ts, found on all the spiritual paths. But most of them are kind of geared around focusing with just single-pointed focus on the thing you would like most to materialize in your life and not getting pulled off center. The physical courage is bravery in the face of physical pain, hardship, even death, or the threat of death. While moral courage is the ability to act rightly in the face of popular opposition, shame, scandal, discouragement, or personal loss. I'm going to read these again because I don't know about you, but being on social media from time to time, people post things that just kind of make me go, And then I'll post something that'll make someone else go, As, in the words of Janet Jackson's soap opera says, got one life to live. Who's right? Who's wrong? Right? But there are some things I think we can all agree on that we need to stay focused on. And some of that moral courage, that physical courage to stand in the face of intimidation and say, no, stop the madness. Without naming what I'm talking about, I bet everyone is thinking a similar thing in your mind. And my head's tingling, and I know that I'm right about that because that's what happens when my head tingles and I don't have a pinched nerve in my neck. So that's how I know. Now, so the thing is, how do we stay focused on it when the news cycles want to try to pull us off of this and onto this? We have to say, no, I am focused on this. Or look at the shiny object. I have a pretty strong sales background, and one of the first things I was taught was how to keep people on track with giving them the facts. I had some good sales training with people who are actually trying to help people understand a product and not just manipulate the end game. But I also sat in quite a number of sales trainings where it was all about the manipulation tactic and how to, there was one guy that even had a shiny pen, and he would take it out if he felt like he was losing people, and he would hold it like this. It was one of those cross pens, those gold cross pens. We've all seen them. Maybe you signed a contract with one. And then he would do this and then put it down on the paper and then hand it over to you. And he said 9 out of 10 times people will just sign. Like, wow. But if we had in our mind, I was also trained by someone who would pull out a big yellow legal pad. And some of you know this if you're in my spiritual coaching sessions. And he would write one word on the top of the notepad, and the word was no. And then he would go into a sales situation. Most often when he was trying to buy a car or something like this, no matter what the person came to him with for 3 times in a row, the answer was, he would just look at his own notes. No, no, no. So what can we say yes to? What can we say no to? Invariably, he got the deal he was waiting for. He knew what he wanted to spend. And until he heard that, the answer was no. And if he didn't get it in that place, he'd stand up and go someplace else. How many of us have the courage to just walk out of a showroom or a sales room, or just to show someone the door? I watched somebody else do this with getting a fence put up in the backyard. Did their research. She knew what she wanted to spend on a fence, and somebody came in and was just quoting some outrageous thing. It takes a lot of courage to tell a salesperson, I'm sorry, thank you for coming. I'll show you the door. Some people would say, oh my God, that's rude. It's not rude. It's, I don't want to do this. I'm sorry, thank you. So think about these times where we could start to exercise the courage to say yes when we mean yes, no when we mean no, and enough is enough. Stop the madness. And to not take your mind off of the goal until you've achieved it. Just stay on it. Stay on it, on it, on it. It's going to be challenging. That's why it needs the courage. Think of some of the things that you've accomplished in your life that maybe you thought you couldn't do, or you knew you could, but you just needed to give yourself the time to do it. Teaching people music. If you really want to play a song, Lisa's shaking her head, right? You start practicing, and you do it a little bit every day. I tell students, if you practice 5 or 10 minutes every day, that's better than practicing an hour once a week. Because you just getting into the habit of that mental fortitude. So courage involves deliberate choice in the face of painful or fearful circumstances for the sake of a worthy goal. So take a moment to bring to your own mind's eye a worthy goal that you would like to set for yourself. A worthy goal. What's the difference between a worthy goal and an unworthy goal? That's different for all of us too. What is a worthy goal? Something that is of service to self and the whole. But bring that to your mind's eye. With this realization, I'm trying to find the gentleman's name. Oh, Albert Bandura is his name. And he's talking about a realization that concludes with, there is a close connection between fear and confidence. Fear and confidence in relation to courage can determine the success of a courageous act or a goal. They can be seen as independent variables in courage, and their relationship can affect how we respond to fear. So there's self-confidence with courage. When you think of somebody who's courageous, they seem self-confident. But if you talk to somebody who has been interviewed in the news, and they've done something incredibly courageous, that might have been the first time anybody's experienced them, or they ever experienced themselves doing something courageous. Sometimes we don't know how much we can bring to an equation until something really activates us. Think of a time you had to show great courage in the face of much opposition, or the stories we read, the people who are doing heroic things. They're just, I say regular people. We're all regular people until we're not. And then we are. Like before enlightenment, what is it? Chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, it's not like chop wood, walk on water. It's carry water. We are the same, but we've been changed somehow. So we can start with ourselves, and it requires this supreme, I started with sacred because it requires a supreme self-love to dive through all the layers that have been placed over our pure hearts, our pure intention, our worthy goals that have been lined up to say, you can't get in line over here. No, you can't do that. We need for you to be in line over here. That's really nice. And we need for you to be in line over here. I'm encouraging you to step out of line and step into your own soul. Rumi says, heart, stop hunting and step into this net. Get out of line and look at what you're in line for a minute. Allow yourself to see, what am I lining up for? What am I falling in line to participate in? And what have I had enough of? And find your way to maintain your, I want this and I've had enoughness in it. It's going to be different for all of us. But I guarantee you, the more we get into a meditation practice of some kind that turns off the world and puts all that energy in the spine, the altar of the spine and brain, deep in the spine, you will tap into that indomitable force. This is the secret to people who achieve great things and have us sometimes doing what we don't really want to be doing. We don't even know why. They've got this force to organize. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best, I think, when if we could be as organized around peace as we are around war, what a world we can create. People who are organized around war are very efficient. They know what they want. Most of the time it's money. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like a whole big thing. What do we want? We want to thrive. We need to, fight the good fight, the light fight. I was talking to a couple colleagues this week, and I talk with a few mentors and people that we just kind of meet in a little mastermind group and talk about things that they're fielding from congregations or friends or what we're going to write about or speak about. And it feels like right now we're all experiencing the same thing. Right now it's time to fight for the light. Double down on your spiritual practice. It's the most important thing we can do right now, is to tap in to that sacred love and bring it forth by standing for something. My friend Karen Drucker has this great song, Stand. I'll be a stand for peace. I'll be a stand for love. There was another quote. I love quotes, but I like to live quotes more than I love quotes. Let's start living some of these things we talk about, right? Change, the courage to change. But her stand song is like, I'll be a stand for love. Let there be peace. I'll be a stand for peace. And stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Do you remember hearing that one? Like all these little things. But the courage to change is an interesting one. Where can we change to accommodate more of ourself? Where can we change to accommodate more of the truth of who we are? For example, having the courage to step out of, sometimes it starts with a family circle. Our families will kind of have, there's the family dynamic is really intense sometimes. And everybody has a role. And you don't know exactly what your role is until someone is out of the family. Maybe there's a death in the family or somebody's estranged from the family. All of a sudden, people are finagling around trying to fill that gap of, I would always say it to this one and this one would say it to that one. Or I would always, you don't know it until somebody's missing. But if maybe you're the mouthpiece, maybe you don't want to be the mouthpiece for this one anymore. And you say, I'm not doing that anymore. I remember the first time I sat in the kitchen and told my mom, she would talk to friends all day long and you would get the circle of what's going on. Oh my gosh, this one and this one. And it was mild gossip, but I just said, I don't want to gossip anymore. She goes, what do you think of that? And I said, I really don't have a thought about it. Oh, since when don't you have a thought about something? It's like, okay, well, she kind of had me on that one. Let's just say if I have a thought about it, I don't want to talk about it. I'd rather talk about an idea. Let's talk about something else, So it was consistent, but I had to really change myself because I used to cave. And I made a commitment to myself that I'm not going to cave into the arena of gossip. And we know when it's gossip because of the way it feels. And so I really had to flex that muscle of wanting to change because I loved myself enough that I don't want to participate in gossip anymore. I don't want anybody gossiping about me. I don't find the thrill of that anymore. And so she tried and tried and tried. And then finally she just stopped. And it came back to me through a sibling of, yeah, mom says, you don't want to talk to her anymore about. So there it is again. And I was like, and she's not here, so I'm not going to talk about her. Do you know what I mean? But it becomes really subtle and sophisticated, but it's like, courage is like any other muscle is what I'm trying to tell you. It's like any other muscle. You've got to flex it and flex it and flex it and work it and work it and work it. These spiritual muscles of which courage to me is paramount. Courage to step out and do the thing you came here to do. large or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is, are you showing up as your soul's calling? You know, that's it. So number one, as we move into courage, an interesting story, I'm going to put this in my book. When my parents didn't know what to name me when I was born. They didn't realize this was back in the ancient olden days, 100 years ago, when they couldn't tell what the sex of a baby was going to be. But all the old Italian people were telling them they were going to have a boy, so they thought I was going to be a boy. So they had a name picked out for me. And next thing you know, I'm still surprising them in all kinds of different ways, but here I am. It took my mom 3 days to name me because they were just had no idea. So finally, she said to the nurse, just bring her in. Let me just look at her. Do you ever do this with a pet? Or maybe this is how you named your children. You just want to look at them. And she got my name. And my middle name is Yvonne. Nobody was named Lisa Yvonne. It was like Lisa Ann, Lisa Marie, 60s. And so later, I asked her one time when I was about 20, like, how did you get my middle name? And my whole name? There's no one in our family. Like, it's not even. And she said, then she told me the story. Then I got a book. Did you ever look at one of those books, Unleashing the Spiritual Power of Your Name? Do you know what your names mean? We should do a names thing sometime. It'll be really, really fun. The name game. Who knows how to do that? I don't know it. But I looked it up, and my first name means consecrated to God. And my second name, my middle name, means courage. Wow. And when I said to her, my name means these things, she looked startled for a minute and just started to cry. She said, I don't know where that came from, but I remember looking at you, and that's what came into my mind. So it was like one of those witchy, kind of super cool things. So my invitation here is to think about things that you participate with that maybe you take for granted. There's always an energy that starts before we materialize the thing. And the energy I'm asking you to call forth is the courage to show up and surprise everybody and let them figure it out. But just be who you are, and you know who you are, and support that, and find people who support you in it. There was a song I used to listen to when I was little, and I couldn't stop listening to the lyrics. It was a song called Do It or Die. Do you remember this song? Don't let your bad breaks get you down. When everything goes, when all the times get rough and you've had enough, you still have to try. Do it no matter what the people say. They don't even know you. Do it no matter what the people, they don't even know you. Die before you let them stand in your way. Don't you know that? Life is a gamble all along. Winners or losers, to keep rolling on. Just go on and roll the dice. You only live twice. Do it or die. And I just would think about all the things that I had envisioned, singing, and that was against the grain. Nobody tells you as a singer, you should go to law school, but make sure you'll always be able to fall back on your singing. It's like, that's not what they tell you. You'll fall back on your music. It's kind of like the other way around. So just dare to do it your way. And you only live twice. What's that mean? That means try. And when you don't succeed, you're not going to die. And you're going to be awakened with a new piece of information because you've tried. All right? Then you go back and try it again. And if you screw that up again, guess what? Somebody like Steve Jobs will love that because it means you're thinking outside the box. People who play it safe aren't the ones who, come up with the next great invention. You would get fired from Apple if you made too few mistakes because you're not going to create anything new. Just try something different. So show of hands, how many want to just commit to try one thing differently? Anything, some tiny little thing, maybe the way you prepare a meal, something, but go for it. So some other things here, and stay focused. So I'm also going to charge you with not letting the news cycle pull you off of the thing that we know we all need to do right now, and double down on taking care of our children, for God's sake, literally, figuratively. There are some common sense things we can all do, and don't get swayed off the conversation. My friend Jim Lockhart posted on his Facebook the other day, and it was so simple. He was like, some bad man with a cake smeared the Mona Lisa. Too bad there wasn't a good man with a cake there to fix the situation. Because you see how stupid that sounds? It's kind of stupid. So we all know there's a line. We can bring things into a line. It's not an all or nothing kind of world. We're not saying all of these have to go away and all these, no. But common sense is somewhat uncommon. But the more you tap into your soul, you'll know what the next step is. And it's not a political step. It's about being a human being who has come fully alive. Be that one who's awakened. So there's plenty of research on all of this kind of stuff. So some steps to courage. You ready? One is create scenarios. Do you ever have that friend who is going to be the daredevil thing? So what's the worst thing that can happen? And then you have your little scenarios of the worst things that can happen. And then something far more like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. But you wouldn't have known had you not tried it, right? Yeah, so the next time you might say, we'll do this again, but we'll do it differently, or I'm never doing that again. No. So play out scenarios in your mind. And actually think of the worst thing that could happen in your mind. And then plan for, okay, if that happens, then what? And just keep saying, then what? And then what if, until you can find the courage to do it. Another one is to recognize the negativity bias. Many people are prone to attend more to the negative than the positive outcome. Did you ever notice this? Helen and I talked about this. My mom, again, I talk a lot about my mom today, but she was so careful and cautious about a lot of things. And I am too, to a degree, but not like that. I'm a little more of a daredevil than that. But like she would think of, if you were 5 minutes late, if you had the car out and you had to be home by midnight, you remember those days? If it's 12:05, she's on the couch looking out the front window. By 12:10, absolutely any number of 100 things, any one of a number of things could have happened, all of which were bad. It couldn't be the light was out or the whatever. So how many of you are worriers? Like, oh my God, what happened? Not as much? Good. But notice when you are, and what are we worried about? It's these things we can't control. So focus more on when you catch yourself not wanting to try something, not having the courage to try because you're afraid something negative is going to happen. Practice going through it in your mind and face the challenge with courage and positivity. That could happen, but this could happen too. Like we live in the world of duality. Like anything to materialize here takes a positive, negative charge, and it meets in the middle. You're the spark of it. So even if you can get to the point in your mind where it's 50-50, it's going to work out. It's more likely it's going to be 51-50 because you took the step. The more you focus on the positive thing, the more you pull from, when we're pulling in the chi is neutral. But when you put a thought into the chi field, you pull together the thing you would most like to materialize. It's the same as when you're writing your name. You could say your name, but then when you get in elementary school and they teach you how to write it, you're pulling a sound from out of nowhere through your hand, through a pencil, and you're writing it on a piece of paper. We materialize things like this all the time. Our thoughts do the same thing, but charge them, run everything through your heart center. Charge it with the magnetic charge of joy and right for me to have, and making sure that it serves the whole, everybody wins that way. Talk out the fear beneath the thing. So people who are afraid to act often have little or no confidence in themselves. And this lack of confidence manifests in many ways through procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, where you've achieved great success, but you still think, oh my God, if anybody found out, I really don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God. Some of the most highly effective people have imposter syndrome. So open up about yourself, doubt, and expose your vulnerabilities. It can have an empowering effect because you're identifying what you're truly afraid of. It's not some big hairy monster or something you can't see. You're actually identifying it. And then you might even get to the question, what am I afraid of? I don't know. Just do it. And then practice going out of your comfort zone. So this week, I'm just going to invite you to, who's in, I'm going to get a commitment from everyone in the room and everyone out there Do one thing that takes you slightly out of your comfort zone, whatever it is. Do one thing. It might be trying to eat that thing you thought you never liked. Taste it again. Just something minor. Start with tiny little things like that. This is a really important one in summoning courage. Take care of your body. I don't know about you, but myself personally, when I'm completely exhausted, which I try not to do anymore, I don't have the courage to do much. There's like a self-preservation thing that kicks in where I can't take it. I can't do that right now. But know that about yourself. And don't let anyone tell you, oh, come on, you can. When you need to stop, you have to be the one to say, no, I need to just sleep. I can't even think, or I'm just so tired. So drink lots of water. That's one of the easiest things we can do, is keep yourself hydrated and watch how you puff up like plants. Watch plants. I brought a plant back to life that was completely dried up, sent it some chi, and then I gave it some water, and I kept giving it water. And it just keeps producing flowers now. Nothing magic about that. That's how it works. You send it love, you send it light, and you give it some water. Do the same thing for yourself. But notice that when you meditate and you find relaxation techniques, they help nourish your cells. It makes your cells fat and happy, hydrated and filled with joy. And that joy rubs up against cells, that cellular communication. The fatter your cells, the quicker you can materialize joy in your body, health in your body, because your cells are rubbing against each other. Hafez talks this thing about, he imagines God, he and God were two fat people in a tub, rubbing bellies and laughing. So think of your cells as just happy cells rubbing bellies and laughing. I mean, just allow yourself to have the joy. And then recognize that you're not alone. And when I was asking certain questions, everybody's hands were going up, because we have things in common like this. Having people with whom you have freely shared your fears and who have shared theirs with you can be a valuable resource. This is why support groups are so important. You know, people who are involved in AA or come to classes, and we start breaking through barriers together. It's something powerful about sitting in a room, listening to people talk about their successes and their challenges. Oh my God, they're just like me. Only we're doing it different ways in different places. So what can you do to support yourself in taking steps to your courageous zone and living your best life? And so self-love is the destination. It's the beginning and the end. It's the destination and it's the starting point, and it's ever evolving. So with that, you'll be able to see and hear resonances, other people might miss. So tapping into the courage to change, and to take the step. Don't just go along with the way you used to do it, because that's the way to do it.